I have a need for attack speed! Seriously though, this is so much fun. Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome all to the new, only now possible in Season 3 twist on, probably on balance, my favourite personal all-time sorcerer build, that classic bit of arc lashy swish and swash back and forth, everything melts. It's had many forms over the seasons, but now we have two new two new toys to play with. The first, a unique Paingorger's Gauntlets. These were just crying out to be arc lashed. 200% multiplicative echoed arc lash hits? I mean, yes please. And then aspect of adaptability. A up to 80% multiplicative increase to arc lash damage. Well, basic skill, but in this case, arc lash. Combine those two, do a new build around it to make it sing as loudly and as proudly as it's possible to do so, and we have something really special. And the results, yeah, absolutely phenomenal. The raw damage you can get Arc Lash up to is ludicrous. Now, I don't have Genesis, so my adrenaline is missing a whole 30% multiplicative, and my affixes are about 80% of the way there, but not perfect, and it's still making Arc Lash just consistently hit for 300 to 500k on every enemy on screen, while at capped attack speed, which on Arc Lash is hilarious DPS. Now, in terms of pure min-max efficiency, this is probably a little bit behind Blizzard. That said, with the current level of content in the game and the speed at which you can go here, because we play heavily into cooldown reduction, so your teleport has like an on average 2-second cooldown, cannot be overstated. In terms of just pure clearing through dungeons, tier 90 plus, open world, this reigns supreme. Its boss damage is still heftily impressive, as you are seeing, though of course not much can keep up with 15 stacked Ice Spikes Blizzards. But look, I'll be real with you, this is easily the most fun I have had playing Sorcerer this season so far, even over new Meteor. It's really just enjoyable. You move fast, you kill fast, you attack fast, you just go fast and everything gets one hit. It's brilliant. Because Paingorgers only needs another non-basic skill to do the marking, something as simple as Lightning Spear flying around the screen, hitting every enemy, even the enemies in the next room, all of the Lightning Spears from your unstable currents, they make it so that you're hitting enemies and then you're killing enemies in the next room with Arc Lash. That is so brilliant. So many things just die without you ever even realizing they were there to begin with. And because we've gone heavy in on Ice Blade Swarm with the new Ice Blade aspect too, to power our cooldown reduction, we're not doing crackling energy or any of that sorts here. We still get really low, nearly constant unstable currents uptime through an entirely better avenue that gives us even more damage thanks to Conjuration Mastery, and essentially...
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
I cannot wait to show you guys this one. I already heartily recommend it. I'm going to start from the bottom of the skill tree and then scroll all the way to the top and then zoom in and start telling you what to get in detail. Look, I just thought maybe a literal description might be fun this time. It's, there's only so many ways I can introduce the skill tree segment. Anyway, put all 4 points, 5 into Arc Lash, and then take it to Glinting. Now, that said, you can go for Flickering, as movement speed equals crit chance. We want as much crit chance as possible, but we also do want as much unstable currents and all of your other moves as possible, so this is a kind of feel it out, but I've erred towards Glinting. 1 point into Firebolt, as it will be the first of our enchantment slots for all of that burning, extra crit damage, and so on synergy. It's really needed here, and we don't have Seneschal space to get it there. Then we move on to Cause, and... We move on to defensives, where we grab Flame Shield and then Enhanced, followed by Shimmering, the emergency button. We all know how good Flame Shield is. We put all 5 points into Teleport, so it has the lower cooldown as possible for maximum raiment groupings, and Tibalt's uptime, and then the usual DR for the privilege. This will essentially be permanently up, which is awesome. Max out your glass cannon, it's free damage. The game isn't hard enough at the moment for it to be a concern, so why not? 1 into attunement, so we can have the resetting, and then we leave it there, because we need Conjuration. Firstly, Ice Blades, all the way to cooldown reducing, and that's going to be your second enchantment slot, so we have the Swarm going, powering down our cooldowns, and making this build so fast to play. Then we get 3 out of 3 Conjuration Mastery, as we will have a lot of conjures up, even outside of the Unstable Currents Lightning Spear spam, and it will give us a lot of increased damage. Then we grab Lightning Spear and take it down to Invoked, so we get the constant stuns, which make us do a lot more damage, and make the enemy, stop hitting us. Then we grab Align the Elements and Protection, so all of our constant pressing gives us a constant barrier, and with how much cooldown reduction we have and how often we're pressing cooldowns because of it, yeah, this really is one of those lovely permanent barrier sorcerer setups. Helped extra by 3 out of 3 in Icy Veil, so we really do have a permanent barrier, and it makes this build insanely tanky, which is always nice to be able to just sort of brain off power through even a tier 100. Then we want 1 rank in your Inner Flames just to get to the max Devouring Blaze for that lovely critical strike damage increase. Over to our ultimates, where we get 1 in Permafrost just to get to Hoarfrost. We will always be fighting chilled enemies, so that's at least 15%, and with that many Ice Blades and the Seneschal, freezes happen a lot too, and when we stun bosses, which happens very frequently in this build, we then get that sweet 30%, as they count as all statuses, including Frozen. Grabbing Unstable Currents and just the attack speed, as we don't need Crackling Energy, and then finally we get Coursing Currents, Conduction, as movement speed is clear speed, but also more crit chance thanks to Essus, and then Electrocution for even more DR, even more tankiness. Now, technically, you don't need to max this out, and you can put these 2 points anywhere else you want on the tree, but I'm happy for them to just stay there and make our crits more consistent, as critting is everything here. Going over to our key passive, where we will be grabbing Essus Ferocity. The reason being is nothing that it actually does literally itself. We want it for the 50% attack speed aspect we can use because of it, which will take us to attack speed cap with Arc Lash, which with Arc Lash is insane, and having tested it extensively between Ferocity and Via's Mastery, timing boss kills, I can confirm that, yeah, the attack speed does win out, especially as it means 50% more random casts in Unstable Currents while that is active. There we have it then, the skill tree all neatly tied up. Over to the gear side of things, let's begin with your gems, because hey, we get to use actual basic skill damage. Yeah, that's nice. We don't see anything other than crit damage while vulnerable often, so that's neat. Armor in your jewelry and health in your armor. Aspects then, we want to have the new Shredding Blades. Ice Blades have a higher chance to do vulnerable, it lasts longer, but most importantly, we get 25% multiplicative more vulnerable damage, which is, yeah, really, really nice. Ice Blades and Lightning Spear is our vulnerable engine in this build, and because of this aspect, they do it well, and, well, more than well enough for all of our needs. It's a really neat thing to play with. Technically, we could use Seneschal a bit more, rely on it more, and maybe use Storm Swell, but hey, it's new and shiny fun, and gets the job done. Over to Essus Ferocity then, for that 50% attack speed, because the crit that triggers it doesn't need to be fire. So all of our Arc Lash crits that kill things trigger this and give us 50% attack speed. All of our crits against bosses trigger this and give us 50% attack speed. And that is so much damage. Then we have adaptability. This counts as a resource aspect, so we have to have it on a ring, and given we have to have Telrashers, yeah, there's not much room for decisions on our ring slots. I would love to have xfal still with the firebolt burning, or even a couple other options, but there's just no room for creativity here, as adaptability is up to that sweet 80% multiplicative more arc lash damage. I wish I had a better roll, but hey, you've been seeing how effective it is even without the max roll. Then we have Rapid on our amulet for 45% attack speed on your basic skills. You will be a little bit overcapped sometimes while running this, and technically you could get away with a damage aspect on your amulet if you wanted. Let Esu's and the natural attack speed on your glove carry your attack speed, but I'd rather be at 110%, wasting 10%, than sat at like 65% with a 45% potential left to go. Anyway, that just leaves the defensive aspect in Juggernauts on your helmet. Either choose Juggernauts or Disobedience, whichever one you prefer to play with. So, uniques-wise then, the aforementioned Telrashers for that 45% multiplicative stacking, Fire from Fire Shield and your Firebolt enchantment, Shock, obviously, and Frost from your Ice Blades. This is always up and always a boon to any Sorcerer build. I absolutely love this thing. Then we have Esu's Heirloom. We need crit chance, we need crit damage, this is the way to go. Then to bolts, again, not here for the resource restore, but the consistent multiplicative increase, because we can keep this up permanently with how low we have a cooldown on both Fire Shield and Teleport. It's hefty. I really also wish I had a better roll, but it is what it is. Then the star of the show in Paingorger's Gauntlets. You want a really good roll on this, at least 160 or above before you do this build, I would say. The affixes are all obviously perfect for a basic skill build, and I really do love this thing. Then the usual raiment to finish it off, constant grouping, Arc Lash the group, all of them are marked, all of them are echoing. Yeah, it really is fun to behold. Affixes wise then, we want critical strike chance, and we want critical strike damage. Then we want basic skill damage and basic skill attack speed. I wish this lucky hit chance with a barrier was basic skill damage, but I've just not got lucky with the roll yet and ran out of materials. Yay, enchanting in its current state in Diablo. Then you want crit damage with lightning, then vulnerable damage, ranks of Hoarfrost, Devouring Blaze, defensive skills are good too, cooldown reduction, movement speed, and then your other general like intelligence, damage to close, damage to burning, and so on. Defensively, you want the percent total armor, and that should do you. Over to the Seneschal then, before we get in the nitty-gritty of how to play it. Flash of Adrenaline with Duration, with Initiative, and then Safeguard if you don't have Genesis, and if you do have Genesis, then Genesis. The standard Duration, Initiative, Genesis, Flash of Adrenaline will essentially be on every classes, every build forever, as it's just too good to ignore, 50% multiplicative. The other side of things, you want Tempest for its ease and rapid application at range. This is always going to mean that every support is constantly up with how it functions, and it does a good hefty bit of damage too. You want to pair it with Evernight if you have it for permanent +4 to all of your skills, which helps this build especially a lot, as all of our defensives, Conjuration, and the Arc Lash itself gets a lot better with more ranks. Then we want Efficiency for the 15% extra crit chance. We want Frigid for that constant chill to activate Hoarfrost. If you don't have Evernight, you instead want Breaking for extra help with your vulnerable. That's about that. When it comes to playing it then, we just want to play around Paingorgers. Every bit of damage that isn't Arc Lash will mark enemies. So, for example, we just start Arc Lashing away, that's all well and good, it's just doing its normal thing here. But if I teleport over there, we can now see the little swirly mark above their head. That's the visual for this enemy will get echoed with your Arc Lash. So if I then do it once more, come back over here and start swiping, you can see that all 5 dummies are getting blasted with the Arc Lash. And that's kind of the basis for it. Your Lightning Spear will zip through and mark every enemy. Your Ice Daggers will float round and mark enemies. When you teleport teleport and group, you will mark enemies. When your flame shield does damage to everyone around you, you will mark them. The goal is to just get as many of these swirly circles above every enemy as possible, and then you start cleaving them down with your Arc Lash. And it kind of just functions itself, because in a build with this much cooldown reduction, we essentially do just want to press everything on cooldown. We start to get so many ice blades going on, every single dummy is just getting absolutely shredded by our Arc Lashes, and you can see it all just flow itself. There is so many conjuration stacks and so much damage flying out, and it's just fun, and it's so fast. That is the main thing. You just run round, group them up, slash them down, teleport on, group them up, slash them down, and you will just kill things that you don't even see, because you will keep marking things, as I said, in rooms next to you as you go through the dungeon. It's really synergistic. And the only thing really to note with how Arc Lash works is when you teleport group, do a dodge out and then Arc Lash back, because otherwise all the enemies will be inside your character model, and ironically you won't be Arc Lashing them. So if we go to a boss then, where we can actually see the Esu's Ferocity activate, because we can't kill a dummy and trigger it, well, you just see this kind of output. I'll put my Seneschal back into actually helping, and here we go. And you can just see the health melt, my god! It's so good. Finishing this up with Paragon, then follow me point for point as usual. Grab your Resilience, grab your Elementalist, and then head to the Glyph slot, where Elementalist will take its usual place. Big extra damage for free, we're already doing it for Tal Rashes, and amping both Elemental Balance and Erudite, which you also need to get, is a really potent thing. Up from the left into Enchantment Master, which is the next up, and we want to grab Elementalist, like so, and Elemental Balance, followed by Erudite, and then finally Ruinous going up from it and round. Get the extra non-physical damage. Technically, you can spend all of these 5 points anywhere you want, but with 5 points left over on the board, getting an extra 25% non-physical damage is really nice. In your glyph here, we want Reinforced. We're always going to have a barrier, so this is really nice DR, but it also then amps our non-physical and our all resist, which is needed. Over to Burning Instinct, which is our next up, and that is, well, as usual. Straight down to Cinders, get the glyph, which is going to be Destruction. We're all about crit damage in this setup, and get all of the dexterity that is in range around the glyph. Head down to grab Smoldering Embers and the extra dexterity, and then we will poke up just to get Kindling, as it's a nice little increase for not many Paragon points spent. Then we want to head down and out into the next board, which is your Frigid Fate. Arranged so that Oppressive is at the top right here, and we initially start by going straight for it and getting all of the extra vulnerable damage. Then we go straight down here and initially go left to the Glyph slot, where we will have Exploit for even more vulnerable damage, but mainly the extra 10% multiplicative. Going straight left to grab the Dexterity to activate it, and then straight down to Weakness. This just sorts itself without us needing to get Dexterity from anywhere else. Past Weakness to then get Frigid Fate, and we can continue on at this dexterity node here to go straight down into our next board, which is going to be our Elemental Summoner board. We want to go all the way down in a line until this Intelligence, branch left to grab Elemental Summoner. The extra cooldown reduction on them both is really helpful, and hey, the damage isn't too shabby either. Then we want to head straight down to grab this Dex, as we will need it to activate the now gotten glyphs of Flame Feeder for another 10% multiplicative increase. Heading straight up to Conjurer to get the Dex needed, and then straight down to Erudite and through this all resist to the final bit of Dex. Then we want to head back up and take the right branching path underneath Oppressive to get to the final board, which is going to be our Static Surge. Arrange it so Paralyzing is in the bottom left here, which we'll head straight down to, grab it for the extra stun stun damage. We're teleporting, raimenting so often. This is huge. And then we continue on and up to the glyph where we will put control. We're always fighting chilled, stunned, or frozen enemies, so this is huge. And then activate it with the dexterity immediately around it, while also grabbing incapacitate because we might as well. So that forms our Paragon board for Paingorger's Arc Lash, and it's quite, well, neat and tidy if I say so myself. That is that. Then we come to an end, everything set up and everything flowing real nice. I really do like this one. It might not be literally tippy top best from a pure like boss DPS perspective, but in terms of fun and relative power, it absolutely flies, and it's always nice when new items really give you an entirely new way to capitalize on a build that was already really good and most importantly really fun. So let me know what you think, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. Until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.